Welcome to NetDemix's class on Gmail. But actually, you get a bonus already. With Google Apps, there's so much more than just Gmail. So what we decided to do is include Gmail, Contacts, Hangouts, Tasks, and Keep. And this is a class that we call in-cloud communication because these are all different ways to communicate both with yourself and organize yourself, and more importantly, other people. So with that, let's get started right away. We're going to get started on Gmail because this is the first app that most people start using when they migrate to the cloud. So what exactly is Gmail? Well, Gmail is an email system that is fully web-based. What that means is you can access it straight through your browser. The cool thing is that there's no software to install. Remember the old days when I had to actually install Microsoft Outlook on everyone's computer? Well, you don't have to do that anymore. As long as you can open up your browser and log on, you can get access to all of your email. The reason this works so well is because all of the data remains on Google servers. I'm not downloading that old email like I used to do, because that email would sit on my computer. And then what would happen is I'd go somewhere else to another device and I couldn't get my email anymore. Well, with all of that data on Google servers, that means I can have anywhere, anytime, any device access. So it doesn't matter if I'm sitting at my house or I'm sitting at my office or I'm on a beach in the Bahamas. It doesn't matter if I'm using an iPad or I'm using an Android or a Chromebook or a Windows device. I can always get to my email. That's what's so great about Gmail. Now, depending on how Gmail is set up for you, most of you are probably coming to this class with Google Apps installed. Google Apps means your email address is at your organization, so your business or your school. So it would be a .com or a .org. If you're coming with a personal Gmail account, you will be at gmail.com. So that's what Gmail is. First thing we need to do with Gmail is, of course, log on. How do we do it? There's actually several different ways to log on to Gmail. One of the best ways is just go to google.com. Go to google.com and you'll see at the very top a sign-in screen. And you pick sign in. You also will notice with any of the Google apps something called the Google App Launcher. It's up here at the top. I can click on that and I can choose my mail and it will have me log on that way when I start at Google's web page. Notice when you log on to Gmail, you also can easily move between all these different applications. So if I want to quickly get to my Drive, I just open my app launcher, click on Drive, and there I am. So it's a great way to move around Google Apps once you're logged in. What's another way to sign in? Directly. Just go to mail.google.com. Now, one of the secrets of Google and all of their products is a quick way to get to that application is simply putting the name in front of .google.com. So as an example, if I wanted to go to my calendar, I would type in calendar.google.com or drive.google.com or sites.google.com or any of the other Google apps. So this works great too. Some people even put this shortcut right on their desktop. So they're able to double click and get into Gmail very quickly. When you go to log on, be sure to put in your full email address, whether that's at your organization or at Gmail, and then put in your password. And then you're able to sign in. So now you've successfully signed on to Gmail and you say, wow, there's a lot of options here and it might look a little overwhelming. Don't worry, we're going to address every single one of these options that you see. But the good news is we're going to start real simple and we're going to start with what everybody needs to know right away. And that is how to send an email. None of these other features matter if we don't know how to do that. So let's start first on sending an email. I'm going to go to my top and I'm going to choose the Compose button. Top left, Compose. When I use the Compose button, I can see my Compose window open up. The great thing about Gmail is it will remember addresses as you start to work with people. So the more you email your spouse or a friend, it will remember that in your contacts. So if you type in, let's say, the letter M, it will remember everyone with M in their name. And you'll see that automatically appear. So it's quick and easy to fill in the address space. But what a lot of people don't know is that the to button, the to is actually a button. So if I go to my Gmail, I go to Compose, and I push to, I can search all of the contacts that I have. I can search both my contacts, and if I'm using Google Apps, I can search the directory. And the directory is all of those contacts that my network administrator put in. So I can easily search all of my contacts and find who I may want to send emails to. I select them, and there we go. They show up in the field. So all kinds of different ways to do it. First way would be just start typing, and then you pick from there. Another way is you can push your To button and search for your contacts right here. All right, so you pick who you want to send to. That's option number 1. Then what you need to do is decide if you're going to CC or BCC anyone. Okay, well, these mean different things depending on what age you are. I know that sounds a little silly, but if you're 30 and above, you remember CC as carbon copy. It actually was a physical process where you would make a copy of something using carbon paper. If you are under 30, you may have called it courtesy copy, since carbon copies don't really exist anymore. It doesn't really matter what you call it. The important thing is when you CC someone, that sends a copy of the email to them. Now, the key with CC is when you CC someone, that means you want them to know what's going on, but that person doesn't have to take action. It's just a little FYI. Then we also have BCC. BCC allows you to send something to people, but their name does not appear in the email list when the email arrives. A great example of doing this is groups. So let's go back to my example here. I'm going to, let's just start to select some people. There's one. I can CC someone else. And I can BCC multiple people. Like this. One trick with Gmail that you may not know is that you can drag and drop addresses around if you choose to. Okay, so CC means I'm sending a copy to that person, but they don't have to take action. BCC means I'm sending a copy to this person, but I don't want their name to appear in the email when the email arrives. The most common reason for BCC is if you're sending to a large group. Then we have our subject line. Our subject line is actually very important because there's several Gmail features that depend on it. The most common is conversation view. We'll talk more about that later. But the most important thing to learn at this point is make sure your subject line makes sense. It's a lot easier for conversation view or when you search. If you have a subject line with something like, hi, how do you search for that later? It's difficult to do. So make your subject line pretty clear. Then you put in your message body, which is essentially your message. And then you would go to hit the send button. But before you do that, what we want to do is talk about these toolbars that are at the bottom of your Gmail screen. So let's talk about those. Our first toolbar is our formatting toolbar. Our formatting toolbar allows us to spice up our emails just a little bit. The first we want to do is set our font. Our font can be up to 11 different fonts. Then I have the size. I can do small, normal, large, or huge. And no, if you pick a huge font, there is not a greater chance that your email will be read. It kind of looks like you're yelling. So I would recommend normal is fine. Then you can select your style, bold, italic, underline, and you can even do color. One of the most common reasons I use color is by highlighting sections of an email. I'll give you an example of that. I would go to compose a message. I would type hello. And then I would say, well, this is an important part of the message. So I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to make my background color yellow. And now that's selected. So that's a good way for you to show people, indicate importance on certain parts of your message. We also have alignment, left, right, centered. We have lists, which is numbered or bullet lists. We have indenting. And we also have a quote. Now, this button allows you to insert a quote like an inspirational quote. Then we have my favorite button in almost all of Gmail, and that is remove formatting. Let me show you why that's so important. If I go back to my Compose, and I select something, and we will make it the text color yellow, sometimes that's kind of hard to read. In fact, you may have a hard time reading it right now. What I can do from here is I can select over my text, and then I can choose remove formatting. I do that, and look at that. It goes back to my default. One of the most common reasons we see this done is people copy and then paste certain information from the web, and when they paste it, that text comes in either ugly or the color white, and it's hard to see. So select over that and then remove formatting. All right, so that's the first of the two toolbars. Let's talk about the next one, the insert toolbar. The insert toolbar, going from the left to the right like we did before. The insert toolbar, the first one there is the paperclip. The paperclip allows you to insert traditional attachments. The size limit is up to 25 megabytes. So we're talking about PDF files and Word documents and pictures and that kind of stuff can be inserted this way. 25 megabyte size is pretty generous, actually. Google's really good about that. But what will happen is that sometimes you'll send an attachment and the person that you're sending to, their email server doesn't allow large attachments. So what do you do in that case? The next button is great. It allows you to send files using your Google Drive. What's so amazing about this is that you actually aren't sending the files. You're sending a link to the files, and those people can download those files straight to their computer. So the beauty of this is the files are almost unlimited in size. So you can send very, very large files to people with no more attachment limits. And we'll go in detail in my Drive class. I'll show you how to do that in my Drive class. So that's inserting with Drive. Then our next one over is attaching money. How attaching money works is when you send it, their CD-ROM drive does not open up with money in it. That's not how it works. What happens is it uses Google Wallet, and it works a lot like PayPal. You set up an account, and sending money is free. Receiving it is free. Sending is 2.9%. This is a way that a lot of people are starting to pay contractors. You can add an image. So you can add an image directly from your computer, and you can upload it. You can drag it and drop it straight into Gmail, or you can even do an URL. So if you have an image that's somewhere on the web that you want to include, you can do it this way. Then we have the insert link. The hyperlink. Let's go to the hyperlinks. Let's say that I have an email like this. I write, this is a cool website. Now, what many people do at this point is they will actually put the full link in here, www.google.com or www.netdemix.com. What we're going to do here is we're going to highlight the word, and then we're going to insert the hyperlink. So where are they going to go? Google.com. This makes your emails look so much cleaner and so much nicer, especially when you have those long, scary URLs. This way, when someone receives the email, they click and they immediately can go to google.com. Okay, so insert hyperlink. Cool tool. Then, of course, the best icon ever. Everyone loves this icon, and that is the emoticons. So I go to Compose, and I push emoticons, and I can see all of the emoticons that I could pick from. These actually come from Hangouts. Tons and tons and tons of emoticons. Now, depending on your personality, some people love emoticons, some people hate emoticons. For those people that love them, I don't need to say anything. You already love them and you're using them. For those people that don't like emoticons, let me explain to you why they can be very valuable. Sometimes the written word is subtle, and you don't know if people are being funny or if people are really mad at you. So emoticons are a great way for you or others to hint at their emotional state. So if you're having a good day, put in a happy emoticon so people know and can share that great day with you. Okay, so you can insert emoticons if you want to. Then we have discard drafts. You saw me doing this several times already. Let's say that I'm typing an email, and then I walk away from my computer. First of all, notice what it's saying down there, saved and saving. Whenever I close this, you'll see it saved here as a draft. There is no losing email anymore like there used to be. Gmail automatically saves it as a draft. Well, let's say that this particular email resolved itself. What I can do is I can discard that draft, and it's gone. And that way it keeps my drafts nice and clean. And then there's a drop-down. Now, the drop-down buttons you'll find all through this class today, a lot of the cool stuff is hidden in the drop-downs. So look at this drop-down right here. When I drop down, I have all kinds of options, but the one I want to talk to you about is default to full screen. Most of you, when you open up your Gmail and you hit compose, it'll show it in a little tiny window with the toolbars not maximized. I like my toolbars maximized. So I'm going to click on the down arrow here, and I'm going to default to full screen. I'm going to close. Then the next email I open, notice it's a large window with my toolbars expanded. And that will stick through all of your Gmail. So if you set that setting, all of your new messages show up that way. That's a setting I prefer and I like a lot, and you might want to set that. Also from here, we see things like setting labels. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And we'll talk about printing. And of course, check spelling is here. Check spelling uses one of Google's dictionaries, but if you're using Chrome or any modern browser, you probably have spell check already built in. But that's one more lesson, one more way to check spelling if you want to. All right, so that drop-down arrow has some good stuff in there. So we've successfully sent an email, and we inserted an attachment. What happens when people send us that email back and we receive the attachment? What are our options? Well, in the old days, we only had one, and that option was download that file to my computer. That was it. And you had to have that program, let's say Word, you had to have that program on your computer to see the file. Well, now that's not true anymore. There's actually 4 options with Gmail. The first one is preview. The great thing is Gmail has tons of previewers built in for things like Microsoft Office files, Adobe files, and many other. So even if you don't have that program like Photoshop, I may not have Photoshop on this computer, I can still look at the file. And that's a great, great feature of Gmail. So I can preview if I want to. I can download it to my computer like the traditional way of doing it. But what you're going to be doing more is the second option, and that is save to drive. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you're not saving data to your local computer anymore. Why would you? We're cloud-based. So you'll be saving that file to your drive, and it'll put it there automatically for you. And then the last option, if it works, will be edit with Drive. Now, what I meant by if it works is if you received a file that Google Drive directly supports, like Microsoft Office files, you can actually open it in Drive and begin editing it right away. So we have 4 options: preview, download, save, or edit. All right, so we've received that email. How do we reply to someone? Well, there's actually 2 different ways to reply. First way is the arrow, the backwards arrow. The arrow says, hey, I want to reply back to that person. And you push that and start typing. What many people don't know is that you can click at the very bottom of the email and just start typing right away. You don't have to push that button at all. Either way will start a response. And of course, the drop-down arrow. The drop-down arrow has all kinds of good stuff. So I'm going to open this one, and I'm going to look at the drop-down arrow, and I'll have many more options in the drop-down arrow. So let's talk about the ones that are most common. The first one is forward. Forward means I want to take an email and send it to someone else. A good example is we're in technical support, and if someone sends me an email that says, please fix my printer, I'm not the printer guy, so I'm going to forward it to my printer guy to take care of it. So that's forwarding. The other one is the most dangerous option in all of email, and that is reply to all. If you're looking at your own screen right now, you may not have reply to all because it only shows up if you were emailing a group of people and that group of people emailed you back. So if you don't see it, don't worry about it. It just means you're talking to an individual. The reason I say it's the number 1 most common error in email is because let's say that we're talking about the soccer coach, or we're talking about something with a group of people, and we write back and say, that soccer coach is so mean. And we hit reply to all. Well, clearly it's going to apply to everyone in that soccer group, including the poor coach himself. So be very, very, very careful with reply to all.